Hey guys, welcome back to the Conversion Clinic. Today we're going to talk about 5 reasons your Google ads aren't converting and how to fix them. So this is a big topic in the Google ad space. What we find is that businesses out there are understanding that your Google ads are meant to bring sales, right? And there's big misconception out there on the job of the ad and the job of the landing page. Okay, and we're going to get through that later. But let's go through the top 5 reasons. If you don't know who I am, my name's Josiah Roche, and I've helped generate millions of dollars for my clients by fixing their ad conversion rates. A part of that has been learning a lot on what works, what doesn't, across different niches, and not being naive enough to think that just because it works in one area doesn't mean it works for another. And that's what I've found over the last several years. So let's go through them together. Let's not waste time. What are the top 5 reasons your ads aren't converting? So number 1, it's usually because you're targeting the wrong keywords or irrelevant keywords. So if you don't know how it works already, Google uses different match types to basically separate keywords and what they do. What that means is if you had a lawn care company and you wanted to bid on a keyword called lawn care services, if you set that to a broad match, you're ideally going to be targeting anything under the sun related to the topic of lawn care services. So if a university student is researching, what are lawn care services? What are the things around it? Even semantics. It doesn't have to say that exactly lawn care services. It could be a separate brand or anything that you're going to enter in auctions for. It's really ridiculous, right? How broad match works. Phrase match is becoming a little bit silly recently. It's starting to go outside of auctions, behaving kind of like a broad match at the moment. And whereas exact match, the third type, is basically if you've got lawn care services, you only want to bid on auctions, like enter your ads into auctions where the term lawn care services is exactly used in that exact phrase, right? The idea here is to, at the start of creating your ad, is to have a really educated guess on if someone were to hire me tomorrow, what are the things that they would type into Google exactly? And sometimes you might argue like, oh yeah, they're looking for a lawn care company or whatever. And in that case, yes, you could probably bid on that stuff, but it's also they're using near me keywords like lawn care services near me or stuff like that, right? So basically you want to start there. And if you're budget conscious, then you might want to set them all to exact match. And if you find that you're not getting enough impressions, then release the exact match and switch them all over to phrase until you get to a point that you're tweaking the heck out of them. Now, from there, your only goal from there is to keep pruning your search terms. So in the Insights tab in Google Ads, at least where it's moved to at the moment, it's in search terms, and you'll see what people are actually typing into Google to trigger the keywords that you're bidding on. And so basically you want to prune these and to make sure you're adding as much negative keywords as possible so that you're making the best use of your budget and not wasting too much money. So how that works to your conversion rate? Well, when people are typing in lawn care company near me and they're going to a landing page that says lawn care company near me and it's everything to do with that, well, chances are that person is going to convert higher than going to another generic landing page about, some blog or lawn care services. And it's not exactly matching. You get the idea, right? So that's the main thing, irrelevant keywords. So the more you can tweak that and refine your keywords over time to make it more silky smooth, finding the right people who are typing the exact thing that you offer, that you sell, then the higher likelihood your conversion rate is going to go right up. The second reason is shitty ad copy. So what I mean by ad copy, it's usually the content in your ads, what your ads say, the headlines, descriptions, all that kind of stuff, even things like site links and that extracurricular stuff that you don't really think about when you're starting ads for the first time. Now, this is your prime real estate. You have a lot of control over your ad copy. If it's generic as hell, and it doesn't relate to the keyword you're bidding on, then chances are people aren't going to click on the ad. And when people don't click on the ad, it lowers your conversion rate, well, to the point that you're not going to get as many sales in general, right? So the idea here is to match the ad copy, the words that you use on your actual ad, and match that to the landing page. Try to make it exactly the same as possible. So what I mean by that is if you're trying to sell lawn care services, right? then you'll probably want to make sure the landing page is all to do with lawn care services. It's got a great offer. It's like answered all the objections people have around your service. You might go through, to relate to the audience's problem about wanting the best curb appeal on the block, or, want really healthy grass all seasons throughout the year. Whatever it is, whatever their pain points are and you've researched, make sure that's on the landing page, but also in the ad copy. With that said, there are a few pointers in order to make really great ad copy that increases your conversion rate because it's highly relevant to the keyword you're using. So the first tip I have is to make sure you're using dynamic keyword insertion. Look it up if you don't know, but basically you can swap out headlines dynamically based on the keywords you're bidding on. Really, really cool stuff, right? So basically, if someone's typing in lawn care services, then it's going to automatically add the term lawn care services into your actual ad. My second tip is to use dynamic location insertion. So on top of the keyword insertion, you can dynamically pull the person's IP address, right? Google's smart enough to do this for you and understand which city or suburb that they live in or country. And it can automatically add that to the actual ad copy itself. It's really, really cool. My third and final tip for the ad copy and to make sure that you're increasing the conversion rates is to make sure that you're using headline pinning. Okay, so there's this thing with responsive search ads where you can change the pinning of headlines. This doesn't apply to Performance Max. It applies to search campaigns. So you can use pinning, headline pinning, in the way that you dictate to Google in what order the ad should present itself. Okay, so if in the first pinning, you might have the dynamic keyword insertion, so that, because again, I said people read left to right in the Western world. If you're targeting Western countries, that might apply to you. But let's say they see the keyword as the first thing on the left-hand side, then ideally that'll increase the click-through rate. So you could set that as the pinning one, so it's always in the first position of the headlines. In the second position, you could have that location one I spoke about, right? And then, that combo, just having those two headlines, already increases your click-through rate dramatically, which in turn, your conversion rate. So with that said, number 3, the pinning of 3 doesn't always show up. Okay, so you might find that, you have really great headlines in the third pinning position, but, in certain orders, it doesn't show. Google decides when to show them or not, but still good to have them in that case. Now, the whole reason why you'd want pinning in the first place is so that you're not wasting as much budget on different variations of the headlines, because Google, if you don't set any pinning, Google will basically dictate to itself and it's going to swap between those headlines until it finds ones that work. But the other reason of not wasting all your budget is that if you can imagine that Google swaps all your headlines over and you don't dictate in what positions, then it's going to do it forever, like lots of different times. And can you imagine how many, what we call permutations, like how many different variations that's going to swap between? Like 15 headlines times 4 descriptions. How many different versions coupled together is that going to make? And so you can imagine that's going to take ages, especially on a short, small budget, to work out what works. So let's get into the third reason why your conversion rates aren't as good as you expected with your Google ads, and that is your landing page. And I want to start with this, but the other two were super important. So it might be an obvious one now after we've kind of gotten through this whole thing. Your landing page needs to directly be related to the ad copy and the keywords that you use. It's a trio. If the keywords you're bidding on don't relate to the landing page itself, then, there's going to be a disconnect. You're not going to get a conversion rate you want because the audience is expecting to see something else. It's like clickbait, right? You don't want to do clickbait on Google Ads. You get penalized, you get lower quality scores. And guess what? If you have lower quality scores, you have to pay more for per click compared to another competitor. We'll go through that in another episode maybe. So the best advice that I could give you with your landing page is to research a persona. So a persona is basically research into the pain points, fears, objections, desires of someone who is looking for, in the example, lawn care services. And basically, you're trying to find what are their pains in relation to wanting lawn care services. Like, what is that trigger event that's wanting them to type that into Google to find someone like a provider to fix their problem? What are the desires? What do they want out of it? Better curb appeal? Do they want a green, fresh lawn all year round? Do they want somewhere for their pets and kids to play on that's really nice? What are those desires? And if they actually decide to go ahead with you, what are their objections? You're too pricey. You don't have a payment plan. You guys seem like you're a one and done. You guys seem new. You don't know what you're doing. There's not enough social proof or testimonials. So these are all the things you go through with a persona. And there are a lot of scripts out there. I've got a YouTube video on how to do this as well. But basically, you want to understand a persona so that you can understand what to write on the landing page. It basically gives you everything that you need to write. Okay, so let's say you've got all that down pat. Your landing page is fast on mobile. It looks great, etc. Then what you want to do is keep tweaking from top to bottom. So what I mean by that is when you've got everything down pat and your conversion rate still hasn't improved, then start tweaking the first section. Keep tweaking that headline and use some tracking software like Hotjar or, there's quite a few software out there for this where you can see what the person is doing when they land on the page. Like it records their screen and you can watch where they bounce off. Okay. So if you keep tweaking that header section and you notice that the more sections you're tweaking, one section at a time, you keep running ads to it, test it for a week, and then you edit the next section below that, and you're seeing that people are scrolling more and more and more down the page on average, then, your conversion rate goes up, because the more people spend on your page, the more time they spend on your page, the higher likelihood that they are going to convert. So the fourth reason why your conversion rate isn't working as well for your Google Ads is because you're targeting bad audience signals. So this could be anything from, if you're selling lawn care services, it's probably likely that, you don't have teenagers and young adults hiring you for the services. They're more so DIYing, or maybe you don't have the lower income households, the bottom 50% or something, that are going to take you up on your services, but you're targeting them with your ads anyway. So there are ways to switch all that stuff off. There are ways to turn your ads off during nighttime so that you're not getting overseas spam traffic coming to your ads. So this is a big reason why your conversion rate is super low, is because there's still a lot of metrics in your ads that need fine tweaking. With regards to that, check when your ad schedule is running. Are you running it 24/7? Can you change it to your business hours so you're targeting relevant audience? With the age group, so you're targeting the right age group. So you're targeting people who are probably over 25, who likely are a bit more mature, a bit more money. They can hire your services for that way. Are you targeting people who are 65 plus who are probably in like a home, right? And they don't need your services. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you keep going down this little audience in terms of understanding who your main persona is, who these people on average, what criteria do they fit? Are they like between 35 and 44 years of age? Are they between the top 10 to 40% of higher income households? And then going even deeper, you can change audience signals with like stuff like performance max campaigns and display network campaigns, where you can target people who are similar to the people who already filled out a form with you, or converters, right? So you can find people who are kind of like those converters on your website and target lookalikes in different asset groups for performance max. So which is really fun. You can test these things out. But basically, if your conversion rate is super low, it's because you haven't spent enough time tweaking those audience signals to find really great people. So if all things being equal, your landing page is great, your ads are great, your keywords are great, if we're talking, search campaigns, not that we are right now, then yeah, you do need to refine the heck out of your audience signals for performance max in this case. So it's kind of like our reason number one, which was irrelevant keywords, but you're doing audience signals instead. So you're targeting even things like other competitor websites. You're targeting people who genuinely visit those websites as well. You could be targeting people who search for similar things to your search campaign keywords. You can create different audience signals. You can target people who are in market for home improvement. You just play around with it, keep tweaking it, keep testing it, right? There's really, really cool things that you can do. You can run new experiments inside of Performance Max. But yes, that is a reason why your conversion rate would be low. The fifth and final reason is because your conversion tracking is confusing the algorithm. So what I mean by that is sometimes you'll have lots of different conversions, YouTube subscribers, web forms, click to calls, click to emails, actual phone calls recorded. And sometimes when you're setting up a campaign, you might find that all of them are triggered by default, or you haven't purposely selected different ones. And so the algorithm is trying to be trained on multiple conversion events or triggers, which is really bad. It confuses the heck out of the algorithm. So you might have a subscriber on YouTube, which is like $2, and then you've got a web form that costs $400 to get filled out. Let's say that was the case. And so can you see how that would be confusing to the algorithm? So if the algorithm is trying to learn more and more of who our ideal customers are and what kind of psychographics they have, if you've got a YouTube subscriber over here as a conversion event for your campaign, and you've got a lead form as well, and they're totally different people at totally different stages, then you gotta tweak your conversion tracking. Get rid of all those rudimentary, really basic conversion events that are really tricking your algorithm into thinking that it's all these types of people when it's not. And, basically that'll lower your conversion rate simply because you don't have the algorithm working at its best. Okay, so definitely go through all your conversion events, your conversion actions, get rid of all the ones that, don't make sense for you to even track or optimize the algorithm with. For all the other ones that you think are cool to track, but aren't necessary for the algorithm to find better people, then just set them as secondary. That's it. But for the rest of it, definitely track your conversions correctly. Track the forms. If you're using something like What Converts, you can actually train the conversion value, so how much a lead was worth to you, how much money you made from that lead, and you can feed that back to Google Ads using software like that. Highly recommend. So as a quick recap, let's go through some of the stuff we learned today. So in order to improve your conversion rate for your Google Ads and how to fix it, we've gone through irrelevant keywords for search campaigns. We've gone through ad copy and some tips and tangible actionable items on how to actually fix that. Your landing page, having a look at, why it's not converting and the steps in order to take to improve the conversion rate for that. Some tracking tools there. Audience signals, mainly around display and performance max and the different in-market segments, and you can even go into job titles and things like that. And then you've got your conversion tracking, which is actually quite an important one. A lot of these should be reason number one, but they're all equally important. And, these are just the steps you've got to take in order to troubleshoot all of that. So, at the end of the day, these might seem like small adjustments, but they make a huge difference. When you're looking at your conversion rate, it's probably the most important metric for you to focus on. And so definitely take the time to go through each of these. And yeah, good luck. Let me know how you go, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.